Hello and welcome to ME 342 Foundations of Finance. Today we will be going over chapter 6 on bonds. Okay, after that we'll be going immediately into chapter 7. Bonds. A bond is actually a debt for a company. And there are different definitions with using a bond. You have the first definition of a bond, which is actually a debt for the company. You have the par value or the face value of the bond. This is how much the bond is going to be worth at the end of the bond. So when it matures and all the time has elapsed, this is the par value or face value. Just like when we were doing in time value of money, the par value or the face value, when you're putting it in your calculator, it's going to always be future value when you're talking about the par value or the face value. You then have the coupon rate and the coupon payment. Okay, they go together hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. The coupon rate is going to be a percentage that you will use to get the coupon payment. So let's just say you had a bond that is worth $1,000 with a coupon rate of 10%. That means your coupon payment, when you take the 10% and multiply it by the $1,000, you're going to come up with $100. That's going to get you your coupon payment. Okay. Then we have the maturity date. And the maturity date is just like you growing up from a little person into an adult. When the maturity date, that is when it's going to pay out. You're going to get what you expected to get by investing in the company. Then we have the yield or yield to maturity. Do not overthink it. It's just like we did in previous chapters. This is the interest rate that the bond is growing as it gets from when you made the initial investment to maturity, the date of maturity. Okay. Present values of cash flows versus rate changes. Okay. For a bond, present value of the coupons, total coupons, plus the present value of par. Then you have the bond value is the present value of annuity plus the present value of a lump sum. Okay. Those are how we used to do it in the past. Now with financial calculators, I'm going to show you first off how you would actually do this manually versus doing it in your financial calculator. And you will see if you write down everything correctly, you will have it just like that, and there's no need to go through the long drawn out process. But there are some things that are very important, and particular to bonds. You have to remember as interest rates increase, the present value decreases. So as interest rates increase, bond prices decrease and vice versa. Okay. I want you to consider a bond with a coupon rate of 10% and coupons pay annually. The par value is $1,000 and the bond has 5 years to maturity. The yield to maturity is 11%. What is the value of the bond? If we were actually to put it in as the present value of annuity and the present value of a lump sum, this is how you would do it. However, please do not do it that way. We're going to use our handy dandy financial calculator, and we're actually going to input everything into our financial calculator. So if we look at the problem from a time value of money standpoint of view, we know that our N is going to be 5 because it's 5 years to maturity. We know that our interest rate is going to be the same as our yield to maturity. So our yield to maturity is 11%. Our payment is the coupon rate times the par value. So that's how we got the payment of $100. And remember what I stated before, the par value is the face value is the same as future value. So once we enter all of this into our calculator, we now get the present value or the cost of the bond, because what you're paying now, we actually make an investment into the company, is either going to buy the bond or make an investment into the company, will always be your present value. So the value of the bond, the present day or our investment or selling price of the bond is $963.04. Okay. All right. Here's another problem. Suppose you are looking for a bond that has a 10% annual coupon and a face value of $1,000. There are 20 years to maturity and the yield to maturity is 8%. What is the price of the bond? Again, if you did it the long way, you would take the present value of annuity plus the present value of a lump sum. But we're going to, again, use our financial calculator. Using the financial calculator, we know that N is going to be 20. Our interest rate, or IY, is going to be 8%, our yield to maturity. We calculate the payment by taking 10% of 1,000 to get our payment. Our future value is 1,000. We compute from present value. The present value or price of the bond is $1,196.36. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some relationships. Okay. If yield to maturity equals the coupon rate, then the par value equals the bond price. If yield to maturity is greater than the coupon rate, then par value is greater than the bond price. Y is selling at a discount, or called a discount bond. If yield to maturity is less than the coupon rate, then par value is less than the bond price. Y is selling at a premium and is called a premium bond. Let's talk about interest rate. A change in price due to changes in interest rates. Interest rates are up, bond prices go down. Long-term bonds have more interest rate than risk than short-term bonds. More distance of the cash flows add more adversity effects by increasing in interest rates. Okay, lower coupon rate bonds have more interest rate risk than higher coupon bonds. More of the bond's value is deferred to maturity, thus for longer times, and its coupons, which are the payments dispersed to the investor or to you, are going to be smaller. Okay. Calculating yield to maturity. Yield to maturity is the rate implied by the current bond price. Finding the yield to maturity requires trial and error if you do not have a financial calculator. It is very simple, just like we just did with the financial calculator on previous problems. It is similar to the process of finding the rate of required return on an annuity, which we did in previous chapters. If you have a financial calculator, you enter in present value, payment, and future value, and you have to remember the sign conversions, just like in time value of money. Payment and future value need to have the same sign, and the present value must have the opposite sign. Okay? This is different from an annuity where we're going to have a whole lot of negative payments for withdrawals and everything else. But these, having the payment and the future value, the same sign always, and the present value has to have the opposite sign of the payment and the future value. Okay. Consider a bond with a 10% annual coupon rate, 15 years to maturity, and a par value of $1,000, and the current price is $926. Will the yield on the bond be more or less than 10%? Well, we know again that N is going to be the years to maturity, so N is 5. Our present value is going to be the selling price of the bond, which is $926, and we're going to put that in as being negative. Remember, it's just like doing an investment because the money is leaving our pocket. We then have the future value or par value of the bond, which is $1,000. We calculate payment again by using the coupon rate as an annual coupon rate of 10%. So we take the 10% and multiply it by 1,000. We have the payment of $100. We now can calculate for the interest rate, IY, and that is 11%. So this bond does have an interest rate that is higher or more than 10%. Let's look at semi-annually coupons. What do we first off know about semi-annually coupons? That is twice a year. So we're going to be making payments twice a year. Suppose a bond with a 10% coupon rate and semi-annual coupons has a face value of $1,000, 20 years to maturity, and is selling for $1,197.93. Is the year to maturity more or less than 10%, what is the semi-annual coupon payment? How many periods are there? We can do that very, very simply. Because we know that it's twice a year and the yield to maturity is 20 years, we're going to take 2 times 20. Our N is going to be 40. The selling price is going to still be the same. So our present value is going to be a negative $1,197.93. We calculate the payment by taking 10%, our coupon rate, times our face value, $1,000, but we're going to get $100, but that's for the entire year. So how do you find a semi-annual payment? You divide it by 2. So our payment is going to be $50. And the reason that is, if we're getting payments twice a year, they have to add up to $100. So 50 plus 50 equal 100. Or 100 divided by 2 equal 50. And we get our payment. Future value is still going to be the same, or $1,000. So, which is right here, has a face value. And we calculate our Y. Now, here is something very, very simple. Because we calculated it for semi-annual payments, guess what our IY is? Our IY that we calculated is not for yearly, it is for semi-annual. Because remember, it's 20 years, not 40. It's a payment of a yearly payment of 100, right? So what you then, once you get the semi-interest rate, you have to multiply it by 2 to get the yearly. And the yearly is going to be 2% times 2, 8%. Is your yearly yield to maturity, or your interest rate for the bond. Okay? Differences between debt and equity. Okay? These are very, very important. Debt does not have ownership interest. Credits do not have voting rights. Interest is considered a cost of doing business and is tax deductible. Credit have legal recourse if interest or principal payments are missed. Excess debt can lead to financial distress and bankruptcy. Equity has owners' interest. Common stockholders vote to elect the board of directors and other issues. Dividends are not considered a cost of doing business and are not tax deductible. Dividends are not a liability of the firm until they are declared. Stockholders have no legal recourse if dividends are not declared, and all equity firms cannot go bankruptcy. Why did I tell you guys this? Because bonds are debt. Stock are equity, okay? So you need to know the difference between the two, because in a lot of times when you're looking at a company, you have to figure out how much debt they have, bonds, okay, or other liabilities, and how much equity they have, okay? This will come up again when we're doing chapter 7 in stock. The bond indenture, which you should find on page 175, it is a contract between the company and the bondholders, and it includes the basic terms of the bond, the total amount of the bond issued, a description of property, which is used as security if applicable, sinking fund provisions, call options, which is sometimes companies put in, or even the investor put in, an option in which, if needed, they can call the bond in early or go ahead and cash it out early, which you, just like any investment tool, if you take the money out early, there's normally a penalty, okay? You do also have details of protective covenants. Just everybody needs to cover their back, and so this is actually put in to either protect the investor or the company that the bond is purchased from. Okay. Bond classifications. You have registered versus bearer forms, security, which has collateral, mortgage, debentures, notes, seniority. Okay. Bond characteristics and required rate of return. The coupon rate is usually set close to the yield, which depends on the risk characteristic of the bond when issued. Which bonds will have a higher coupon rate when all else is equal in the market? Secured debt versus debenture, subordinary debenture versus senior debt, bond with a sinking fund versus one without, a callable bond versus a non-callable bond. Okay. Let's talk about bond ratings and investment quality, why people choose certain bonds the way that they do. I would actually say the easiest way to look at a bond evaluation is to look at your report card, right? Think about it. The more A's that you have on your report card, the better. So bonds that have the most A's are good to go. You invest in that company without a shadow of a doubt. So let's look at a AAA bond, okay? Its capacity to pay is extremely strong. You have a AA bond, capacity to pay is very strong also. Then you have a single A, the capacity to pay is strong, but they have some changes that's getting ready to happen within their company. They're not quite sure what's going to happen to the value of their company. Then you have a triple B. Capacity to pay is adequate. Adverse conditions will have more impact on the firm's ability to pay. So this might be a company that is going through a little bit of financial struggles, but they're still a good company to invest in. Okay. Then you have the low grade. You have the BA or the single B's and the C's. You want to look at these just a little bit more closely because they've gone into some type of issue with actually repaying their debt. Okay, then you have the lower grades, the C on down, and these are income bonds with no interest being paid. And then we have the lowest form, we have the D bonds, which are more passionately known as junk bonds, and they are in default with principal and interest in arrears. So of course, you know that company, they're not paying on that bond, and you want to be careful. However, you will hear that there are those lucky few who know that companies are getting ready to turn it around, and they have purchased junk bonds, and the junk bonds have gone from a D grade to an A grade. That is possible. As you know, companies restructure all the time, and when they restructure, they get stronger and able to pay their debts better, so that will actually improve the bond rating. Government bonds, you have Treasury securities, which are federal and government debt. You have T-bills, T-notes, T-bond coupon debts with the original maturity greater than 10 years. Then you have municipal securities. This is the debt of the state and local governments, bearing degrees of default risk rated similar to the corporate debt. Okay, and interest received is tax deductible at the federal level. Let's try a few problems. A bond that matures in 6 years has a par value of $1,000 and a coupon payment of $80, and the market interest rate is 9%. What is the price? So already we know it's asking what is the price. So we know that price and present value are the same exact thing. So when we write down this equation, we're going to be looking for present value. Years to maturity in is 6. It gave us the payment. We didn't have to figure it out because it gave us the coupon payment. So we know that the payment is 80. We know that future value, because that's the par value, is $1,000. Our IY was 9. The value or price of the bond, $955.14. Easy peasy. A bond that matures in 18 years has a par value of $1,000 and an annual coupon of 10% and a market interest of 7%. What is the price? Well, let's look at this problem before we go to the answer. We know that N is going to be 18. We know that future value, our par value, is going to be 1,000. We'll take the annual coupon of 10% and multiply it by our par value to get our what? Our payment. So 10% times 1,000 is going to be $100. $100 is your payment. Our IY is 7. That leaves us with present value to calculate for. The present value, or the value of the bond, is $1,301.77. Okay? A bond is currently selling for $850. It has an 8-year maturity and an annual coupon of $80 and a par value of $1,000. What is its yield to maturity? What is its current yield? All right, this one is just a little bit different. It's asking us to solve for yield. What is yield? IY. So we already know that that the bond is currently selling for $850, right? So that's our present value. It has an 8-year maturity, so we have N. It has a coupon payment of $80, right? Annual coupon, so $80 is our payment. Our par value, future value is $1,000. We solve for IY, and our IY is 10.9%. Now, to calculate current yield, we take the payment, which we already have, is $80, and divide it by the price of the bond. So we'll take the $80 divided by the $850, and our current yield is 9.41. Okay. A bond currently sells for $1,250, and it pays $110 annual coupon. It has a 20-year maturity, but it can be called in 5 years at $1,110. What is it yield to maturity and its yield to call? Okay, off the bat, this is two different problems. The reason being is you first have to figure out the yield to maturity. Then you have to figure out the yield to call. Remember when we talked about definitions earlier, I said that sometimes there are call provisions in which the investor or the company might decide to actually call in the bond early because they need those funds. Bonds have call options that make you be able to pull your investment earlier than possible. But you always want to check your yield to maturity versus your yield to call because you don't want to lose or waste money. Okay, so it said, what is the yield to maturity? So first we have to figure out the yield to maturity. We know that it's currently selling for $1,250. So that is our present value. It pays $110 annual coupon. 110 is our payment. It has 20 years to maturity. So that is our N. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because that is talking about the yield to call. So all bonds, if it is not given, it is automatically understood that the par value of the bond is going to be $1,000. So we're going to put $1,000 in there for present value. Okay. Then we can calculate IY, or yield to maturity. Next, we have the yield to call. You're going to use all of the same exact information except for two things. We know that the selling price is not going to change. So we already know that the bond sells for $1,250. That's going to be our present value. We know that it has a coupon of $110. That's still going to be our payment. But now our N changes to 5 years. And when we call it in 5 years, it's going to pay out $1,110. So now our future value is $1,110. And then we compute for yield to call. So our yield to maturity was 8.38%, and our yield to call was 6.85. Okay, the company probably will not call this bond because the yield to call is less than the yield to maturity. Again, no company wants to lose money. They're into business to make profits, not to lose money. Okay, Excel Enterprises has a non-callable bonds currently selling for $1,165. They have a 15-year maturity and an annual coupon of $95 and a par value of $1,000. What is their yield to maturity? You put everything in the handy dandy calculator again, where N is 15, present value is $1,165. Payment is $95, future value is $1,000, and the IY, or interest rate, is 7.62. Remember your conversions. I do not have it on the screen, but you already know that payment and future value must have the same signs, and present value have to have the opposite signs of them. Okay. Quigley Incorporated bonds currently sell for $1,080 and have a par value of $1,000. They pay a $100 annual coupon and have a 15-year maturity, but they can be called in 5 years at $1,125. What is their yield to maturity? So you already know we have additional information here that we do not need. We do not need when it can be called in 5 years. We only want the yield to maturity. So once we put that information in it's 15, present value is $1,080, payment is $10, future value is $1,000. We calculate for IY, or yield to maturity, 9.01. Assume that you are considering a purchase of a 15-year bond with an annual coupon rate of 9.5%. The bond has a face value of $1,000 and makes semi-annual interest payments. If you require a 10% nominal yield to maturity on this investment, what is the maximum price you should be willing to pay for the bond? First off, stands out right here in the middle. This is a semi-annual payment. So just like we did previously, we have to convert everything into semi-annual numbers. Okay, so we know that the par value is $1,000. We have a coupon rate of 9.5%, but it's semi-annually, so it's going to compound twice a year. We have years to maturity being 15, so N is going to be 30. We know that the interest rate is 11%, but we're doing semi-annually, so IY is going to be 5.5%. We get the yearly payment by taking the par value and multiplying it by the coupon rate, but it's semi-annually. So we have to divide that by 2, and we get the payment every twice a year is $47.50. Our future value is $1,000. We calculate present value, $892. Okay. Watchix Corporation issued a 15-year non-callable 7.5% annual coupon bond at their par value of $1,000 1 year ago. Today, the market interest rate on these bonds is 5.5%. What is the current price of the bonds given now that they only have 14 years to maturity? So 1 year has passed, right? So what do we already know about N? N is going to be 14. Okay, so I'm gonna, the par value is $1,000, the coupon rate is 7.5, because it only has 14 years left. N is going to be 14, our IY is going to be 5.5, our payment is going to be $75, which we took the 7.5%, multiplied by the par value to get the payment. Our future value is $1,000. We calculate for present value, $1,191.79. Okay, that is the end of chapter 6. Next time I'll see you will be chapter 7. Please write down all of your signs as you're doing bonds, whether or not it's present. Remember that present value is always going to be put into the calculator negative. Payment and future value will have the same signs. And please remember, when you are converting from semi-annually back to annually, remember the N is always going to be multiplied by 2. You're going to take the interest rate and divide it by 2. You're going to take the payment and divide it by 2. And then once you get if you're solving for payment, you're going to multiply by 2 to get the yearly. If you're solving for interest rate, once you get the semi-interest rate, you're going to multiply that by 2. Thank you, and I'll see you in chapter 7.